Some of you may not know this about me, but I am a big fan of Final Fantasy XIV. And when I say that, people are like, well, Billy, that's not odd. Final Fantasy's great, you know, turn-based RPGs and all that. And I'm like, I'm talking about the MMO. And everyone's like, there's an MMO? That tends to be my discussions when talking about Final Fantasy XIV to someone who doesn't know Final Fantasy XIV. But god damn, I want to talk about this MMO today, specifically about the newest expansion, Shadowbringers, which released just this month and brings in a whole new set of areas to explore, dungeons to fight through, trials to defeat, races to change into, and more. Though of course I won't be spoiling anything here. I'll be very general in the story department, and any footage shown in the video will most probably just be some B-roll footage from my duty roulettes and not related specifically to the expansion. I'd like to include some story quests, but I never actually filmed my playthrough as I didn't think I'd even be making this video until I finished Shadowbringers and thought, I want to make this video. Hello there guys, Billybo10K here, bringing you another video game review. Today we're tackling the Shadowbringers expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, created by Square Enix. So without further ado, let us begin. So what is Final Fantasy XIV for anyone not in the know? It's an MMO JRPG and probably one of the most active MMOs currently out at the moment. Yeah, more so than World of Warcraft. After a horrible original launch, the entire MMO effectively got reset and was reborn into the MMO we all play now. I got into it about 2 years ago when Stormblood, the last expansion, released, thanks to a Twitch streamer I moderate for, SinnoBeats. Go follow him, links down below. He was playing it on stream, it looked fine, I wanted to give it a go, and I ended up getting sucked into this world and everything that came with it. From humble beginnings to epic conclusions, I found that Final Fantasy XIV wasn't just an MMO, it was a Final Fantasy game with its own story, its own characters, and it's all still ongoing to this day. It just happens to be using an MMO as its way of presentation. And this was my first, and probably only, MMO I'll be playing in my lifetime, unless another Final Fantasy MMO comes out one day, because I've never been a big fan of them, because I know how addictive they are, and I do have a very addictive personality, so I have to really moderate what I play, what I'm doing, to ensure I'm actually able to do my job and take care of myself. Yet, Final Fantasy XIV was interesting because it sucks you in, and you go at the game's pace. The game doesn't go at your pace. Sure, you can buy story skips to further your way to new content, but unlike other MMOs, the story is sort of important, and the context it gives you for different characters and trials and dungeons, it's kind of vital. Though I won't lie, the original Realm Reborn content certainly feels a bit dated when looking at the expansions like Heavensward, Stormblood, and now Shadowbringers, and it takes forever to get to the first major dungeon, but that's to be expected. Of course, the team creating the game is going to get better as time goes on. But enough about the game in general, let's talk about Shadowbringers. This latest expansion brings you to the world of the First, a place called Norvrant, where you have been summoned along with your fellow Scions of the Seventh Dawn, your main companions of the game, by the Crystal Exarch, who entreats you to help save this land from creatures known as Sin Eaters. We find out that this land has been engulfed in an endless light, and a majority of the world was wiped out in a cataclysm called the Flood a century prior. And so, it is our job to explore this new realm and, with the blessing of Hydaelyn, bring night back to the skies of Norvrant. First off, the presentation. The new areas in this DLC look absolutely gorgeous. There's no other word to describe them. Every location feels different and unique, from the fairy hills of Ilmeg to the purple eaves of Lakeland, all the way to the Mayan-inspired Raktika Forest. All 6 areas in this DLC hit it out of the park, and compared to Stormblood and Heavensward, the variety is so welcome, especially coming from Stormblood's Gear Albania areas, which were just rocks and more rocks for 3 out of the 6 areas that you got with that expansion. So having all of these areas in Shadowbringers look and feel different is extremely important, and I'm glad this expansion nails that. On top of this, the presentation is further helped by Masayoshi Soken's soundtrack, which is honestly the best it's ever been. Every single track, from the area themes to the dungeon themes to the boss themes, it's all absolutely stunning. Ear candy times a million. I don't know what Soken did this time around that made this music so amazing to listen to, but goddamn he did good. From the impactful dungeon boss theme that I wanted to hear every time I fought a new Warden of Light, to the absolutely tribal head bop that is Raktika Greatwood's day theme, all the way to the very somber tunes of Armoreng. Every track does its job in helping to really set the tone and atmosphere for every area of the expansion. And don't be surprised if a bunch of these tracks become my regular background music in videos for a while. And while this is mainly a background feature, can we please talk about Urianger's new look? He's hot now! But of course, the gameplay is just as fun as it has ever been. Now, as a warning, I won't be discussing how all the different classes of the game play, as I only have personal experience with the Bard class, and I'm really not the right person to go to when it comes to figuring out what class is right for you. There are tons of Final Fantasy XIV channels on YouTube who can help you out with that. So instead, this segment is more going to be about the quests, dungeons, and trials. What I was looking for going into this expansion is a questline that doesn't feel like filler, has impactful moments, an interesting variety of missions to keep the player invested, and great dungeons and trials with fun mechanics to keep us on our toes. As far as the main story quest goes, it's probably the most consistent it has ever been in terms of quality, which is top tier. This DLC feels like its own Final Fantasy game tucked within Final Fantasy XIV. The story is mostly self-contained until you reach the climax, which I won't spoil here, but I really enjoyed the lore behind this expansion and how we finally, after so many years, got some real lore on the Ascians, who were, up until this point, the main villains of the story overall, more so than even the Empire from Realm Reborn. Learning about the world of Norvrant never felt like a chore, and each area we visit has its own culture and characters who are able to help develop the world and its history. I really enjoyed how every single area actually told a story with just its visuals. From ruined cities and temples to an underwater cavern, it's just magical. I absolutely adored how this game showed its presentation for these areas. On top of this, I found myself actually caring about a majority of the NPCs that I met, be it through the main story quest or through the many side quests. With the main quest NPCs, a majority of the people we met faced some form of trauma or loss in their lives, and all of them were coping in very different ways. Some lean to the bottle for comfort, while others hold steadfast in their beliefs that those that perish go to a better place. Some step up to the plate to lead the way for a new world, while others try to appease the rich and escape their responsibilities to their country by joining the antagonistic force of Yulmore. But through your efforts, you restore hope to these lost souls, and the satisfaction of helping those in Norvrant is its own reward indeed. My favourite moments, though, were the side quests that focused on specific characters and their quest lines. Oftentimes, you'd have 2 of these major side quests per area of the game. For example, in Armoreng, you help out a little Maud character called Gun, learn about the history of the ancient civilization that used to live there. And then, much later on when you come back to Armoreng, you help out a miner who wants to become famous and create minerals of some kind. It was like a material of some kind. And none of these side quests are at all related. But if you beat both of these side quests, suddenly an extra quest opens up where those characters meet, and the side quests actually interconnect. And this happened in every area, and I had a giddy little smile on my face, and I'd say it is extremely worth the effort to do these quests. Especially the Raktika Forest quest, because you unlock the best minion in the franchise if you finish it, the Great Serpent of Ronka. As for the dungeons, they're definitely special. Holminister Switch, the first dungeon of the expansion, is this beautiful countryside town that's surprisingly beautiful given it's mostly just a rural area to explore, especially as it's on fire and being attacked by sin eaters. There's a weird beauty in the destruction. While the Katana Ravel is this deep dive into an ancient temple with a brilliant first section where the main enemies are actually using the environment against you, and the third section is really cool as well with some great visuals, though it is bogged down by the boring cavernous second section. Mount Golg is probably the dungeon I'm most torn on out of the expansion, as while I enjoyed the actual dungeon itself, the second portion has these blindingly white structures that don't really mesh well with the enemy's orange AoE markers, and it makes trying to dodge attacks incredibly difficult, and I feel like either the color needs to be toned down, or the AoE marker needs to have a different color that doesn't clash with the white marble. And while I won't reveal them here, the 3 level 80 dungeons in this DLC are all fabulous experiences that I very much enjoyed. As for the trials, I was surprised to find out that the hardest of the 3 new normal mode trials added was actually the first, the level 73 fight against Titania, which is quite early in the expansion, though this is mainly because this fight has an absolutely brutal DPS check if you're not expecting it, and I found that early on my parties would keep wiping at this section. Now that the expansion's been out for a bit, that's less of an issue, but I definitely look up some tips for the DPS check for Titania if you've never fought her, as it can be brutal if even one person is off on their damage. The second trial, which I won't spoil, was probably the easiest in my experience, very satisfying though. Normally, even when I understand a trial, I'll often faint once or twice on my first go, but with this trial, it went as smooth as butter. No deaths, no issues, great mechanics, can't wait to see its extreme variant. And the third trial, while not the most difficult, was easily my favourite trial of the expansion. Without spoiling anything, for those of you who have played through Trial 3, that setup, that payoff. The fact that we finally have a trial that is actually canonical with having 8 people fight, followed by the ending of the main story quest and having come after one of the best lore-based areas of the franchise. Oh boy, it's probably my favourite of the 3 new trials, as I said before. Beyond the trials and dungeons, fates once again make a return. These are short missions that will randomly appear in each area, which players can compete to gain rewards and gemstones, which can be traded with special merchants for cool items like faster mount speed and more. And you can tell that the localization team had a lot of fun with the fate names. Most of them tend to be references to pop culture, so if you notice any references you get, I'm sure you'll get a chuckle out of some of them. Fates and Shadowbringers are a lot more enjoyable, as certain rewards that players want are locked off behind your player's fate rank. You need to beat 10 fates to get to rank 2, then you need to beat 60 fates to get to rank 3, which is the final rank. But because everybody is grinding out these challenges, you'll easily be able to get into fate parties and knock a few fates off of your list as you play. Be sure to do them when you see them, especially if you're going for that 60 fate rank 3 grind. Now, I wish I could talk more about the endgame for this expansion, but really, there's not much to discuss until the next patch comes out, and we get an idea of what new raids will be made available to us via Shadowbringers. And I've yet to take on any extreme trials, so I'm still very much working my way to endgame myself. But overall, this expansion, from someone who's not a big MMO grinder or fan, this expansion has been a fabulous ride from start to finish. It felt like playing a fresh Final Fantasy experience, and there wasn't a dull moment to be had. Final Fantasy Shadowbringers gets a Platinum Star. This is a rank that goes to the best of the best, a rank for games and expansions that you simply cannot ignore, with the caveat that you do have to actually enjoy Final Fantasy XIV and MMOs to actually enjoy Shadowbringers, which some people simply don't enjoy MMOs, that's completely fine. But, you know, for people who love MMOs, this one is for you. Thank you everyone for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to check out my previous review videos on Cadence of Hyrule and Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, and I'll see you guys soon for my next one. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.